Well, the U.S. under President Joe Biden is set to strike a dramatically different course over Iran's nuclear program, from Trump's maximum pressure to Biden's maximum diplomacy. Biden has said that if Tehran resumes strict compliance with the 2015 JCPOA agreement, restraining its nuclear program in return for relief from economic sanctions, Washington will return to the deal as well. Tehran is signaling that it is willing to work with the new administration. Here is Iranian President Hassan Rouhani.
Today, the ball is in the court of the United States, and Washington has to return and fulfill its obligations. Trump's political career has ended, but the JCPOA is still alive. All of his efforts to destroy the JCPOA were unsuccessful, and he failed.
All right, I'm joined tonight by Negar Mortazavi. She is in Washington, D.C. She's a journalist, political analyst, and host of the Iran podcast. It's good to have you on the program. Let me ask you, what would be the best thing, in your opinion, what would be the best thing that the Biden administration could do to turn down the volume, turn down the temperature in these Iranian-U.S. relations?
Well, I think that's exactly a great point that you're making, to turn down the volume, because under President Trump, the 4 years of maximum pressure, or as I call it, 4 years of maximum failure, because it didn't achieve any of the stated goals of the Trump administration, we saw tensions also increase to the point that the two countries were at the brink of war at least more than one time over the past year or so. So to basically decrease the volume and to reduce tensions and to resume diplomacy, and as President Biden now has himself pledged, I think a re-entering of the JCPOA would be the first step towards more diplomacy and more talks on other issues that are of concern to the U.S. and also U.S. allies, including partners in Europe.
Are you surprised that we're hearing this agreeable message from Tehran, the Iranian president signaling that they would be willing to rejoin the deal if the U.S. comes back? I mean, does that surprise you?
Not from the Iranian president, because we have to keep in mind this is his foreign policy legacy. Hassan Rouhani, Iran, in his first election, he ran with a promise of making this deal. And for his second presidential election, he ran with the success of this deal in hand, as it was cut in his first term. So this is something that he's made his foreign policy legacy. In the past 4 years have actually been pretty terrible for the administration of Hassan Rouhani, the team that negotiated the deal, the team that pushed back against the hardliners in Iran, who kept saying, you can't trust the Americans. Basically, President Trump proved the hardliners that maybe those who said you can't trust the Americans did have a point. So I think this, the positive reaction is something that we've seen, at least from the pro-diplomacy camp in Tehran throughout the years. And now that the administration in the U.S. is changing, they've been watching this election very closely in Tehran. And I think they can't wait to basically restart diplomacy.
We know that they have been in violation of the JCPOA, and they've been enriching more uranium. Is the incentive there strong enough to get them to pull back? I mean, you know, they are closer than they were to being able to make a nuclear weapon. I mean, what's the incentive to give that up?
Well, the incentive is sanctions relief, which is what it was under President Obama. But we have to remember, because under President Trump also, there were a lot of sanctions, but there was no path to real diplomacy and the lifting of those sanctions. It was just a piling and piling of more sanctions. But right now, we hear the signal from Tehran that it's, in fact, President Rouhani himself has said that they don't want to delay even for 1 minute the removal of sanctions. And at the same time, like you're saying, they've been violating the terms of the deal to sort of create leverage for when they return back to the negotiating table.
Negar Mortazavi, it's good to have you on the program tonight. We appreciate your insights as well. Thank you.
Thanks for having me.